Hello, hello, hello. Hallelujah. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, everyone. I hope and pray that you can see me and hear me. I'm trying to make sure I'm connected. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, everyone, and happy Saturday. We are with our favorite conference of the year, Heal Me Now Family Conference. I do apologize for the little technical difficulties, but we're here. We're excited, and I hope and pray that you're excited. I pray that you are getting and soaking up all the information, the empowerment tools, all the praying. Oh my God, Sandra, Pastor Evangelist Sandra. Oh my goodness, my Lord. Pastor Beverly, oh my Lord, the praying, the worship, Pastor Anderson, everybody, Apostle Man, everybody's doing a phenomenal job. Last night was just phenomenal. I don't want to go on, but I just wanted to share my excitement and share my my no my excitement, but what I'm getting from it. I'm getting a lot from it. So I'm praying that you're getting the same thing, and I'm praying that you're going to stay with it throughout the day and be back here tomorrow. Amen. So this evening, I have an assignment to talk about domestic violence within the walls of the church, with our walls in our families. Now, my organization is called Safe Wall, so I'm not sure if you're aware of that. My organization is called Safe Wall, and Safe Wall is a training and intervention program that I go around the city of Jacksonville, here where I am, and also different states and different cities, and bring prevention methods, training, intervention methods, and aftercare methods for the subject of domestic violence and child sexual abuse. So my assignment, I was here yesterday and we talked about child sexual abuse, and today I'm dealing with domestic violence within the walls of our ministries, our families, our community, because I'm pretty sure everybody on here, you know someone that has been a victim, or you have been a victim of domestic violence. I am a survivor of domestic violence, and I have my t-shirt on. I have my purple all on because I am a survivor of domestic violence. And so with that being said, I took my pain, I took what I went through, and I turned it into purpose, as just as I stated yesterday, for child sexual abuse. I believe we do not have to allow our pain, our past, our mistakes, our failures to to keep us from purpose. Let's turn all that energy. Sometimes we waste so much energy harbored on the things that we've gone through, and not the demise, what we have gone through. Not to say what we have gone through was not tragic, because it was. It was tragic for me. But when we're talking about the course of our life, God has given us the grace and the mercy to come through that stuff. And now, since we came through it, what do we do with it? We share our stories, and hopefully we can be able to share the lessons learned that we have gone through stuff. So that's what I want to do today. And so today, if I had to give you a verse on today, a scripture on today, just as I did yesterday, it's going to be the foundation of safe walls. The reason why we do safe walls is this, and you'll find that in Proverbs 31:8-9. Speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves, for the rights of all destituted. So yesterday I used the word crush. Yesterday I used the word crush, because when I'm talking about those who are being crushed, those that may not always be a child. It may be a woman. It may be a man. It may be a older person that cannot speak for themselves. And our job is to get justice for them. And justice not always is the law enforcement, but justice is to help them come out of the situation they're in. And sometimes people need help along the way. Not only the victim needs help, but the alleged offender needs help as well. I believe serving both parts of the equation. I believe serving the children, the mom, and the dad, because either one could be the victim. So I'm not a person, and my organization does not just share light on the victim, but we share light on the alleged offender as well. Because do you know they have a soul too? Do you know that they're accounted to? Do you know Jesus Christ died for them too? Did you know Jesus went to the cross and nailed all their sins and nailed all their failures to the cross too? So we, as the body of believers, the ambassadors, our job is to try to, with the grace of God, with the mercy of God, to provide tools for both parties, for everybody that's involved. That's also including the family. So that's what Safe Wall is all about. So let's get into it. What is domestic violence? A lot of times we know domestic violence to be physical or physical abuse. We know that, and a lot of times we know what that means. But domestic violence is way more than just physical abuse. Domestic violence is also emotional. Did you know that? And I'm pretty sure you did. Emotional, sexual, financial, controlling, and digital. Now with this new age, we got digital now. I have some of the people that I mentor and I coach, and I'm a domestic violence. Not only am I a survivor, but I'm also a facilitator for domestic violence for prevention. And so, do you not know a lot of cases I get? You got a lot of husbands and wives control their mate or their girlfriend or their partner through digital. And it's amazing that because we're in a new age now, that the enemy uses anything and everything that's available to him, right? Okay, I hope you follow me. So what is domestic violence? Domestic violence also includes not only just physical, emotional, sexual, financial, control, and digital. You talking about really all that included? Yes. And there are signs, there are indicators to let you know when someone either a victim or it could be a potential offender. Because if we can catch this is the prevention part. If we can catch these things early up in our children, in our teens, in our men, in our women, before they get in a relationship, then we can reduce the risk, right? Once again, just like yesterday, that my whole objective is to reduce the risk, reduce the numbers, reduce the chances that people can go through this. Not just the victim, but also the alleged offender. Because I do know. Can I just give you a quick testimony? Pause for a minute. I remember I wasn't a child abuser. I wasn't a domestic violence abuser. I abused another person, but I did abuse one of my daughters. And I had my first daughter when I was 14 years old. And I was abused as a child. As y'all heard yesterday, I was abused as a child. And because I was abused as a child, I still had a lot of issues. And then I get pregnant at the age of 14 years old. And I didn't know how to navigate through all the frustration and anger. I was stabbed. I was stabbed in my back. I had cigarette burns in my back. I was physically, not only just sexual, but physically abused. And so now here this baby having a baby. Unfortunate, those things, the environment I grew up in at the time was housed in me. So here I am with baby having a baby. I had my daughter and she was around 2, 3 years old. And that's when abuse started. I started taking my anger and frustration out on her. Did I love her? Yes, I did. But I started taking my frustration out on her. And unfortunately, sometimes we parent how we was parent. Not in all cases, but in my case, that's how that happened. And so years passed, and I want to believe I was very abusive. I would beat her with anything. I mean, a shoe or anything I had in my hand. I was very abusive, and I would say things to her. I said things to her that was said to me. I turn around and display what was displayed to me. I display it to her. And so now that taught behavior, now I'm passing that on to my child. And it wasn't until she rounded out, I want to say she was like 7 or 8 years old, when I really was able to grasp it and really bring my mind in and really get some help that I needed. Because if I didn't, I would have carried on that abusive ways for the rest of my life. Why I'm sharing, because we're not talking about child sexual abuse or not talking about child physical abuse, but I'm saying that starts it. A lot of times we see things within our children, we see things within our young people that we don't address. When you see a man or a woman that would take authority and be abusive to another human being, that didn't just happen. Something happened in that person's life that caused them to feel that, one, they're not in control, and they use their anger and physical force to control the person that they love. Love don't have a lot of times people, well, if you love her, you want her. That's not always true. Can I just challenge you with that thought? I love my daughter. I loved her with all my heart, but I had a problem. I had a temper. I didn't know how to navigate through all the anger and all this. And I don't know about you. I don't know if you've ever been in that place that you hurt the people that you love. You don't intend to hurt them, but you end up hurting them. And that's what offenders, alleged offenders, end up doing with their spouse. Is it wrong? Absolutely. Is it against the law? Absolutely. Can a person jump back from it, bounce back from? There can. But yet we need to know all the elements that we can help this person, not only just the victim, but also the alleged offender. So we need to understand what domestic violence is. Domestic violence is a beast, is a disease, and it eats at the heart and the mind. And when it eats at the mind, it calls us not to control, not to draw our mind in, not to pull down strong imaginations. No, it allow our anger, allow us to be emotional. And so now I use my physical force to get what I want out of this person. So physical force, so sexual force. You got domestic violence risk factors, that people that use sexual content to control their mate and vice versa. So it's not just men. I want to say this to you. Women are not the only one get abused. Men get abused as well. But the statistic shows that 95% of victims are women and children. So it's not just sexual abuse. You got a physical abuse that the children also experience. And a lot of times when the woman is getting abused, 9 and 10, the child's going to be next. So let's talk about some risk factors. And I'm going somewhere. I want to talk about some risk factors right now. So what risk factors indicates that a person can be a victim? Can I just give you a few of those? Those women and men that have low self-esteem. Now watch this. The risk factors I'm going to give you can actually play not only just for the victim, but also for the alleged offender as well. So low self-esteem. When someone have low self-esteem or insecurities, it makes them a very dangerous place and a dangerous person, and it also makes that person very vulnerable. So as a victim, if I have low self-esteem and this person seems to be very nice to me, but I don't see the tendencies, I don't see the characteristics of domestic violence, but that person is controlling. Can I just give you a story? I remember when I was coming up in relationships. I'm not gonna call what relationship, because I have several. I have 2 domestic violence relationships that I've been into, but I have experienced controlling relationships. Do you not know it does not always start off with a hit? It doesn't. Domestic violence relationship does not start off with a hit. It starts off in the mind. a person that have the ability to control or manipulate manipulate a person, it starts with the mind. So I had low self-esteem when I was coming up as a kid, not because how I look. Well, it was because how I look, because I was very attractive and I seemed to always gather and attract people to me. So it made me have low self-esteem about myself. I didn't like my shape. I didn't like the curves. I didn't like this. I didn't like that. I didn't like how I walked, because those things, it seemed to attract the wrong type of things to me. So I had low self-esteem. Where men and women, men was able to pick up on that low self-esteem. So that made me vulnerable to be in that situation. The next thing is, I said insecurities. Insecurities is another risk factor. Also, economic dependency. When there's not enough money in the house, when a person don't have enough to take care of themselves, that spirit alone, or that situation alone, makes that person vulnerable for domestic violence. When a man or a woman can see a young person or a woman or a man that don't have enough and they want to take care of them, that's another risk factor. So you got a risk factor as a person, a male or female, that don't have enough money, and then you have someone that could be an alleged offender that can actually pick up on that and use their finances to control or manipulate or to be violent towards this person. And so the next one is previous abuse. When a person had past abuse in their experience, it makes them vulnerable for domestic violence. So in other words, I was child molested and abused when I was a child. So automatically it made me vulnerable to accept and to embrace domestic violence. Are you following me? So when we have people that has experienced being abused as a child, sexual abuse as a child, or physical abuse as a child, it makes them vulnerable to accept, because one, you are already used to pain. And if you have not dealt with that pain, if you have not dealt with that abuse, it makes you vulnerable to receive adult or relationship that brings the same type of environment that you used to when you was a child. Now, is this in all cases? No, it's not. But it's in majority of the cases. Because when you look at statistics tells you and give you the dynamics of all the details of a person's history that makes up these statistics. So when you have past abusive relationships, even as a child, as you experienced or you witnessed it. This is another thing that I noticed. A lot of my cases that I deal with have came across my desk is a lot of these men and women that perform domestic violence. Unfortunate, they seen this somewhere. They was raised up in that type of environment, yelling, screaming, cussing, hollering, throwing pans, throwing this, throwing that. It makes them vulnerable to our environment. Teach us how to behave. Did you catch that? Our environment teach us how to conduct ourselves as an adults. So do understand, when we're raising our children, when we're raising our teenagers, we're not raising them to remain children. We're raising them to be adults. So if we're raising them to be adults, they're watching adults how to behave. Are you catching it? So we have to dismantle what we're doing in our home, so therefore we can teach our children better. Now watch this. You saying, Pastor Teresa, but I did not know no better. Yes, I get it. I didn't know no better either. I did not know that, that I needed help on how to be a mother. I didn't have a mother. I wasn't raised up with my mother. My mom died when I was 4 years old. I was in foster care. I was moved from place to place. And so I didn't have no one to teach me. And all I saw was violence. So now here I am, now a young teenage mom, doing the same thing what I was taught, because my environment teach me. So can I put a pin right there? We're talking about heal me now. Oh, come on here, somebody. We're talking about heal me now. How are we going to heal our community? How can we heal what we see in the community? It starts with the family. We got to heal the brokenness and the damagedness in our families. We got to heal our minds. We got to take on the mind of Christ for real, for real, not that play, for real. Take on the mind of Christ and to take his word as truth and live it out. We're living in some difficult times. Do you not know? Can I put another pen in here? Do you not know, just like child sexual abuse, is on the rise because of coronavirus? Do you know domestic violence is on the rise as well? We're dealing with a pandemic right now, and do you not know, unfortunate men and women that have these issues are experiencing even more. There's a great increase right now. Just got off the phone early today with a young lady. Her husband jumped on her last night because he's frustrated. Now, I'm not making no excuses, and I listen to what she's saying, and we're going to get to some tips on how to be there for a person that's going through this, because it's always, sometimes it's not what we say, it's how we say it, and we can make the situation even worse. But let me get back to the pandemic. So in this pandemic, what we're going through, people are frustrated. Men and women that's losing their jobs, or they got to be home now. Men and women are made to stay home with each other now because we're social distancing, we self-quarantine. So if they have issues, if they have domestic violence in their relationship, do you know that has increased? What I'm trying to tell you today, if we really going to get to the place that we walk out and be the kingdom, God's kingdom's kids and his ambassadors, and actually bring down thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth, we as ambassadors literally have to really know the dynamics so we can pray and ask God, God, show me, give me the wisdom how to minister to her, to minister to him, or to minister to them, because people need us right now. The church, this is a great opportunity for the church, the kingdom of God, to rise up to a level where we can be there for people that maybe don't know how to work for themselves, maybe don't know how to speak for themselves, maybe don't know how to deal with the things that they're dealing with, don't know how to navigate through these hard things. So with that being said, one of the things we got to also understand as a risk factor is control issue. When you have people that have controlling issues, you find, not all, but you find those same people that have a temper. When you've got to control, you got to control everything. And then when you don't control it, you throw things or you say things. And sometimes people that got a controlling issue never manifest into the physical, but that domestic violence syndrome is there. Did you hear what I said? But it's there. But they use verbal abuse. They use their language. They use their body. They don't go physical, but they use the emotional abuse. So that is danger. That's a risk factor. And then jealousy. Yeah, jealousy. Jealousy is a risk factor for domestic violence. And the list can go on and on and on. I want to kind of give you some, and I don't want to stay there too long. But what I want to get with you today, I want you to understand the reason why I'm going here right now early, because where I'm going. And so the other thing I want to ask you, why do victims stay? I know the question we all want to know. Why do victims stay with someone that's causing harm to us? And some of you may know the answer to this question. Why did I stay in a relationship that was very harmful to me? One, I didn't think I could do better. You got some people don't think they can do better. They don't think they can get in a better relationship. And God forbid if you have more than two children, and now the enemy plays with your mind and say nobody gonna want you with 2 kids or 3 kids or 4 kids. So you stay in this relationship because you're used to it. You scared of change. You're scared of something new. So you stay comfortable even when you know this is toxic. Even that you know that this is dysfunctional. You stay in there. Watch this. It's not bad all the time. Why do people stay in dysfunctional relationship? Why do people stay in domestic violence relationship? Because it's not bad all the time. One thing a lot of people do not know, family members, pastors, leaders, community workers don't understand the domestic violence syndrome that a domestic violence victim or a alleged offender go through. It's not bad all the time. And so when it's not bad all the time, that means I'm happy at some point. It's when the time this person get mad. It's when times when things go left. So it's not bad all the time. So when you compare, even though realistically it is bad, though, it's bad the whole time, you just don't see it that way. Because if you got to walk on eggshells and don't never know when it's going to pop off, or you never know when this person's going to be mad, because majority of the time, men and women that deal with domestic violence syndrome, they mood swings. You never know when it's going to pop off. You never know. So where's my point? So it's not bad all the time. So that's one of the reasons why people stay. I can speak for myself. That's the reason why I stayed. because it wasn't bad all the time. I wasn't getting hit every day. I wasn't getting hit every week. It wasn't bad all the time. The next thing is hoping and holding on to change. This is one of the reasons why people, men and women, stay in toxic relationship, damaging relationship, dysfunctional relationship, because we're holding on and hoping for change. You know, we all know we have done stuff. We all know that we have sinned and fall short for the glory of God. So I know that's his issue or her issue. And he begged me, and she told me that she's going to change. She told me that she's not going to hit me no more. We're hoping for change. We believe that if we love the person enough, the person will change. If we make excuses for him enough or her, this person will change. So we hold on and hoping on to change. Fear. That's another indicator and the reason why some men and women stay in relationships that's not good for them and their children, because of fear. I fear for what this person is going to do to me, especially if there has been threat, especially if they made cash on their threat. So I fear which set in. So if they do this to me, what would they do if I leave? Lack of resources. There's another reason why people don't leave toxic relationship, domestic violence relationship, because of lack of resources. Maybe the finance is not there. Maybe I can testify with me in my last domestic violence relationship. I didn't work. He took care of me. Full support. My allowance was $3,000, $4,000 a week. Did you hear me? I had money, but the money came through him. The business that he had. The opportunities that we had. So I did not have money on my own. So where is the money going to come from? I wasn't allowed to work. I didn't have to work. And if some people that may do work, but this is still not making the ends meet. And so after you put the numbers together, I'd rather stay because I have these children and I'm not going to be able to take care of them by myself. Where am I going to go with this type of income? So resources is another reason why some people stay. And then my last but not least, and there's many others, but my last I want to share today is lack of support. Why do people stay in toxic relationships that end up in domestic violence? Lack of support. Because we don't have that support. Family members don't have that support. That woman or that man don't have the support that's needed for that person to leave. Watch this. What they feel is what they have is judgment, not support. And that judgment may be their truth, but that may be not the truth. So I told you what was domestic violence. I told you the percentage of domestic violence. I told you what is the risk factors of domestic violence. I told you why do victims stay in domestic violence. Now, what do we do about this as a body of believers? What do we do as a church, as a pastor, as a leader, as a sister, as a mom, as a dad, as a cousin? How do we help our people that we see that it's very obvious that something's going on in the house? Well, I just want to give you some tips today. Now, the tips I'm going to tell you, I'm not going to tell you they all work because all depends on the situation. The situation all depends on the dynamics of that situation. Every dynamics is different. And because the dynamics is different, it is best that a person that's going through domestic violence is seeking someone and they're talking or they're communicating with someone that have the experience to help that person develop a plan, how they can get the help that they need. A lot of times we're just going based on our emotions. We're just going based on what we feel that needs to happen. But a lot of times we can be giving people wrong information that can cost them their life. When you talk about telling someone to leave their home with a person that can click at any given time, you can actually be telling that person to leave their home and also end their life. There's a way and there's a wisdom way and there is a practical way that we can coach people and help people get them out of that situation. But it's going to require some long suffering. It's going to require some patience and it's going to require some skills and some experience. So today I just want to share a couple things with you to give you something to think about as we talk about heal me now, and we heal in our families, and we want to heal these broken places. We cannot omit and we cannot overlook the different things that we see in our home. First and foremost, I want to say to you, I don't know if you know someone that's going through domestic violence right now. I'm a pastor and I'm a mentor. I'm a business coach. And I come across this every day. With Safe for All Initiative, I come across it, but even in my own business, I run across clients and I can hear it and I can see my antennas go up. I'm like, especially when we start talking about money. Okay, how much money you're saving for your business. Oh, my husband don't allow this, my husband don't do that. I'm like, okay, and I'm not saying that's the biggest indicator, but that's one of the indicators to let me know maybe there's some unhealthy things going on over here. So with this being said, so because I run into so many different people and different areas of ministry and business and family, it brought me to really try to come up with something to really help people navigate, to help others navigate. Do that make sense? In other words, is you may be the person, you may be the young lady that's on the job, and that young lady, your co-worker, come to you and confess to you what she's dealing with at home. How do you help her navigate through that? How do you be that good support system for her to know that she has somebody to go talk to, not somebody going to judge and say, girl, you need to leave that. You must be don't love your kids. You don't love your kids because you will leave out that relationship. No, that's not necessarily true. Just because a woman stays in a relationship does not mean that they don't love their children. Maybe there's some risk factors that you don't know about. And sometimes when we say things off the riff like that, we can cause the situation even more. Do you not know it calls victims to stay private with their pain? Based on how we say, can I just share something with you? Do you know, years ago when I was in my domestic violence, I've been married going on 19 years. Thank God I don't have to deal with nothing like that. But God had healed me in some places, and it really made sure I dismantled some things because I was attracting those type of men. And when I dealt with me, I stopped attracting those type of men. I may go there today, but I'm not sure. Let's look at our time, see where we are. Okay, we got a good time. So maybe I can get to that. So did you not know that in my past relationship prior to me getting married to my husband now, there was times that I wanted to say something. I wanted to tell other women that I was around, or when I was in the salon and conversation would come up, or when I was at church. That's a big issue right there, and I'm going to talk about that today. I was at church and I wanted to say something to somebody. Well, I did say something about it, but I'm going to get to that right now. But I was around other women and I wanted to say, hey, I'm being abused at home. My husband hit me. But because I would hear conversations that they would have about somebody else and how they was passing judgment on someone else, it made me very, very, very insecure to say anything to them. Because if they can talk about their own sister like that, or they could talk about somebody else like that, surely they'll talk about me like that. So I didn't feel safe to say that what I was dealing with, because how they was displaying and showing their disagreement, which of course I disagree with it too. However, when we sit there in conversation around the water fountain and at lunch, and we're just talking about people, and we're just saying, you never know, there's a victim in the midst of you. Ooh, good God, I'm saying there's somebody in the midst of you listening to your conversation that you're having with someone, and they want to come talk to you, but now you don't close the door for them to come talk to you because you share how you feel about your sister-in-law and her husband. So we have to be very mindful and ask God, give me the gift of hush. Not only the gift of hush, but what to say and how to say it, so therefore I won't offend someone or cause somebody to get lonely within themselves and don't share what they're going through. So I want to go and talk about, share with you some things, what we can do as a support team to people, not just the victim, but also to the alleged offender. How can we support them, and how can we get them the help they need so they can be in a healthy place? One of the things I first want to say is that we got to become a healthy support team. we got to become a healthy support team. If the church become healthy, if you as an individual become healthy, if mom and dad become healthy, then when someone come to us with this situation with domestic violence, we can give healthy support, not dysfunctional or toxic support. We can't not just run off with what we want to say, and I said that earlier. We just cannot pass on our judgment, what we think should happen. No, this person is in a dysfunctional relationship, toxic relationship that ends up violent, and we want to make sure the best thing is we got to keep that person safe. We got to make sure that we can help this person stay safe. So the first thing is to recognize. Well, we got to recognize it. We got to see, in counseling. Me and my husband, we do pre-marital counseling all the time with members or people that seeks us out because we do a lot of things dealing with marriage. And in our counseling, in our lessons, and everything is biblically, but there's certain questions that we ask. And we ask a question. And if I feel, and I'm one, I'll be the one, just feel, okay, what's that right there? Okay, when they start talking about, he took my phone and went through my phone. Ooh, what's that? Why you feel like you have the authority to take her phone and look through her phone and question her about all these different things? Or him or her taking phones and changing passwords and going on Facebook and going to Instagram and going to the account and manipulating stuff and things like that. Those are indicators that something could be wrong. This person have an unhealthy way of operating in relationship that can further down the road be a whole nother situation. Do it be a whole nother situation in all cases? No. But majority of the time they will be. So we have to recognize the sign. So in our sessions, we actually talk about those things. And if I feel, and I'll be the first one, if I feel that's going on, we can't go no further with this. You guys need to seek some professional help. Because I'm telling you, as a pastor and as a person that survived domestic violence, there's no way I can sit before people and don't and hear stuff and don't warn them. Don't say anything. Don't give them the tools that they need, or let them know maybe y'all need to wait before y'all get together, because there's very obvious there's some individual issues that y'all need to handle. Watch this. Can I just get a pen? Can I put a pen right now? Do you not know most marriages don't even have the opportunity to celebrate the marriage? I'm not talking about the wedding. I'm talking about the marriage. Because we're constantly dealing with the individual issues. So if we don't deal with the individual, and I'm not trying to make this a marriage conference or a marriage session, but watch this. We're talking about relationships. We're talking about domestic violence. How do we recognize these things? So if a person don't deal with the insecurity, controlling, the jealousy when they're a single person, they're going to bring that in the relationship. That's not going to get better. It's going to get worse. And if we don't deal with it as an individual, guess what happened? Two people come together. I never dealt with my all the abuse I experienced when I was a child, or the abuse I saw as a boy or a young woman with my parents. And here I is. I never dealt with that stuff. I come into a relationship, and soon as challenges happen, soon as I lose my job, or as soon as I go through something, or soon he stepped out on me, or whatever the situation may be, here come the violence. So we never get the chance to enjoy the marriage because we always dealing with the individual issues that should have been handled before we got married. Now, are we going to be perfect when we get married? Absolutely not. But there's things that we absolutely need to deal with before we bring another person into our circle. And you're talking about two different people that was raised two different ways, and loving God is not going to be enough. Just because I love God, that don't change what's going on in me if I don't apply some things and be intentional about change. Do you hear what I'm saying? So we got to first recognize. So we as a support system, as we're going to support and as we're going to be there for someone that's going through domestic violence, we got to know how to recognize when something is unhealthy. We got to recognize when that man or that woman is unhealthy. Being jealous is not cute. Telling you got 30 minutes to come back is not cute. Telling you that, asking a person who all they talk to all day long, I need to know who all you talk to all day. No, that's not cute. Now, back in the day when I was a kid, coming up as a teenager, I thought, oh, he really loved me. That's not cute. That's crazy. And if we don't recognize that stuff and really put a pin on it, you got to recognize it in your brother. You got to recognize it in your sister. And that's another thing. We got to stop just because I love that person and just because that's my sister, that's my brother, that's my daddy, that's my uncle, that's my granddaddy. It's still wrong for them. If they're going through it, if they're the one that causing violence or causing harm to another person. I don't care what she or he have done. No, it's no at no given time. It's right to physically hurt someone else at no given time. So if we're going to be a support team, if we're going to be a healthy support team to someone, we got to come to some truth. And that truth should not be conveniently when it's for somebody else that you don't like. No, it's got to be there across the board. It's got to be there for your sister. It got to be there for your brother. It got to be for your enemy. It's wrong. Putting my hands on someone or knowing someone's putting their hands on someone is absolutely wrong. It could be your daughter. It could be your son. And he could justify why he hit her, but it's wrong. And I see this in so many times when I do family support team meetings. It's be amazed what families tolerates from their sons and daughters and nieces and nephews and grandkids. Well, you know, she started it, so that gives him the right to hit her. No, there's always a healthy way to respond to negativity. And negativity shouldn't have to be responded. We should not respond to negativity physically like that. No, that's not how that works. And so when we actually justify, watch this, we talk about recognizing and recognize so we can be a great, healthy support team. So if I'm going to be that support person, if I'm going to be that pastor, if I'm going to be that marriage counselor, if I'm going to be the sister, the brother that the person come to, then I got to make sure I'm healthy in my thinking so I can respond healthily. Because if I'm not healthy in my thinking, I'm going to respond crazy. I'm going to say, well, I see why you hit her. That's never a good time and never a right time to hit anybody. Amen. So we got to recognize it. And then the other part, before we recognize it, we got to we talked about the prevent part. So we did the prevent part. So recognizing, we did the prevent and recognize, and then the reporting. How do we be a healthy support team? Is come up a way within our programs and with our ministries and in our families. Okay, this need to be reported. Do you not know? I have seen and I have heard and I have witnessed and I have cases that family members have witnessed their brother, their sister, their dad, their uncle physically hurt their spouse and didn't do nothing. Didn't call no one because they say that's not my business. She's gonna go back. The idea is not about, the problem is not if she's gonna go back. That could be her last time breathing. That could be his last time breathing. That could be her last time. So it's not I had experienced this maybe a good month ago, maybe a month or two ago. I was coming up one of my streets coming home. Well, I was leaving home going somewhere. And sure enough, I ran into a car. There was two cars that was parked a certain kind of way. And because I'm from the hood and I once was for the hood and I was a gangbanger and all that kind of stuff, like I could tell how people park says a lot about what's going on. So the way the person parked, these two people parked, you could tell they had a heated conversation going on. I said, "Ooh, they ain't parked right, so something's wrong." So when I looked over, sure enough, here I see this guy hovered over this girl and he's doing like this to her head. And I'm like, okay, Lord Jesus. I said, now I had to go somewhere, but there's nowhere in the world that I was going to pass that circumstance, that situation, and not make sure is everybody okay. And so I did not get directly involved. And that's another thing. You don't have to get directly involved to make sure everybody's okay. And so little did I know that, I'm staring, I park across the street. And I said, I'm going to sit here about 10 minutes to make sure everybody's okay because I don't want this to go left. And sure enough, he hit her. He took something that was in his hand and he started hitting her in the head. I said, oh, I called 911. 911. I called 911. I didn't get involved People passing by watching it, they going slow, they ain't saying nothing, they ain't stopping. I'm not saying, again, because you got to protect yourself too, because you got to know when to jump in and when not to jump in. But in me recognizing, even me reporting that, I stayed there until the police came. I didn't ask no questions. Once the police came, I left. I did my part. Even though I didn't have to know him, I didn't have to know her. And yes, I know somebody's going to go to jail, and I hate that. I don't want to see our black men go to jail. However, I saw a crime, and that could have went left. That's somebody's father. That's somebody's mother. So you have to get to a place, we as the body of believers, we as support team, we got to get to a place when we see something, know how to jump in if necessary, but don't jump into the point it's going to cause harm to yourself. But yet we got to report it. So the next thing is, well, that was the last thing, to report it. So it's prevent it, recognize it, report it. So can I just give you some things, just the do's, and then I'm going to give you some don'ts. I'm going to try to give you some don'ts. Okay, some do's. The do's is we have to make sure once we're healthy in our thinking, we already talked about that, make sure that the person who's coming to you, talking to you, let you know the experience they're going through, make sure they know they're not alone. The first thing they need to know, they're not alone. You're not walking through this by yourself. The next thing is letting that person know it's not your fault. Just like last night that we talked about the child sexual abuse, somebody abused, even though they make it be started the argument, because I started the argument does not justify someone physically hurting me. Now, if I hit the person, still at that point, especially if it's a husband and wife, a boyfriend, girlfriend, it still don't give that person the right to beat me up. Because there's a way that people can defend themselves or leave it. Because we all know, let's be real, we all know when a conversation is going left. Somebody need to be mature enough, somebody need to be responsible enough to leave the scene before it goes to the next level. Somebody got to be responsible enough. So we need to let that person know, no, you're not responsible for their actions. You're only responsible for your actions. So if I, as the person, hit the person, I'm responsible for that. But you're not responsible for what that person do to you. You're responsible for yourself. The next thing is be patient and listen and allow the victim to process the story. I'm talking about some things that we can become healthy in a support team. Because it's going to happen if it hasn't already happened already. Someone going to come to you and share their story or share what they're going through now. Not past, but currently now. We need to be able to listen with an attentive ear and allow that person to share the story. Don't get to the point that you say, well, what do you do? Why you didn't do this and why you didn't do that? No, just listen. Sometimes victims need somebody to listen. Do you not know most victims solve their own problems? But they just need an outlet or someone that they can help navigate their thinking or their decision making. Help the victim. Watch this. We're talking about being a great support system. We're going to talk about the alleged offender as well. Help the victim do an inventory of any risk factors. When's that person come to you, as if you're a pastor, if you're a leader, if you're a community leader, if you're a mom, you're a dad, you're a sister, you're a co-worker, when someone come to you and start telling you what they're experiencing at home and they're talking to you, they're sharing their story, they're sharing what's going on with them, then they tell, well, I'm going to go home now. Let's do an inventory of your risk factors. Okay, what's all in your home? What tools or what knives or weapons are in your home? Where's your phone located? Do you have a house line? Do you have a cell phone? Okay, do you have a speed dial number that you can, if something was to happen, we have to do inventory of the risk factors or whatever safe measures or put things in place. And we're going to get to that in a minute. We also need to make sure that safety is number one. Safety is number one. A lot of times, I said this a little bit earlier, a lot of times we're telling people just get up and leave. Oh, I just leave him. That would be the answer, but not like that. Can I tell you a story? Years ago, a lot of years ago, about maybe a good 20 years ago. This was 20 years ago. Unfortunate. This is a sad story because it didn't end well. A couple was going through domestic violence, and it was going to a local church here in the city of Jacksonville, Florida. And the young man was going to counseling, and the young lady was going to counseling with their pastor. And he was much aware of the violence that was going on in their relationship. And unfortunate, the leader had said to the young lady and said, okay, what are you doing to trigger this behavior in this man? And so, of course, she took it as it was her fault that he was upset and angry and how she talked or whatever. And so, make a long story short, they was going back and forth to counseling. It kept happening. She wanted to leave. She did leave at one point. The young man would go find her, pull her back, bring her back to the house, beat her up, etc., etc., etc. It stopped for a season, and then he'll go back doing it again. Well, this last time, she said, I'm out of here. And she, calling her pastor and telling her, I can't take this no more. Now he's going after my kids, blah, blah, blah. And he said, baby, you're married. You're in a covenant relationship. That's true. I am in a covenant relationship. But my safety is a problem. So make a long story short, she actually went. She left. And, she just straight and left. She didn't get wisdom on how to leave. She left. And unfortunately, the young man found her at her sister's house, climbed up the balcony, got into the home, shot her, and shot himself. It wasn't a good story. Both of them died. Both of them died. Left a 2-year-old baby without a parent. And this couple was going to someone's church. This couple was seeking counseling. After that, my program that I was working for at the time, which Community Partnership for Protection of Children, they created a program along with other nonprofits, is how to give pastors advice when to move themselves out the way or remove the church out the way before you say something that can lead, not to say it's the church fault, but a lot of times we can guide people the wrong way because we don't have all the training or the experience to make sure that we're doing inventory of this person's safety or the person's well-being. So that was a story I wouldn't want for nobody. That pastor took that hard. I mean, really, really hard. And I watched him go through so many things, but all the media, the attention that he got in the media, and he did not mean no harm. He was doing based on biblical principles. However, he did not have the dynamics of that domestic violence. He didn't have the training. He didn't have the skills. He did not know to tell her your safety is way more important than anything. So we got to make sure that safety is always number one. The safety of the child, the safety of the husband, the safety of the wife, the safety of the children. We need to make sure safety is involved. The next thing is help the victim decide what's important to leave behind, because a lot of times in domestic violence syndrome with victims, they're trying to figure out, and believe it or not, you get so confused with all the things that you got to make a decision, and sometimes they just need help to know what to leave behind. No, leave that behind. All you need is your birth certificate, your social security card. Just leave that stuff behind. And last but not least with this, because I got to wrap this up because I want to give a couple of things for the offender as well. If you don't have the training, seek out in your community, wherever you live. If there's a domestic violence organization, nonprofit organization, or a ministry within your area, go ahead and get that information. So therefore, when your sister, your brother, your niece, your nephew, whomever it may be, come to you and talk to you, you have resources to give them. Because we don't have all the training. I try to encourage churches as much as possible to go through the training yourself as a church and have a prevention team available and willing to be there. So if somebody come or a pastor in a session figure out or come up with, that just a possibility or situation, that they can actually get some help and some resources. So therefore, when we have young women and men in the ministry or within our family that's going through this, we can really truly have the skills and experience that help them come up with a plan. And so that's what a lot of these domestic violence nonprofit does. It allows the people, it helps them create an escape game, a plan. Because as a domestic violence facilitator, I don't teach people just to leave. I give them a plan to leave, how to leave. And there are indicators when, you just do got to get up and leave because It's crazy today. It's really crazy today. So here's my thoughts, and here's my closing statement and remarks on this. As we're talking about heal me now, there's some healing comes from God. A lot of healing come from God. I said this earlier, yesterday. The majority of the healing come from God, but there is some healing that comes from people. And I believe God has put a mandate on our lives to help initiate and create an atmosphere of healing. How can we create an atmosphere of healing for people that are experiencing domestic violence? One, we got to become healthy in our thinking. We got to become trained and experienced in areas so therefore we can actually meet those needs with our people, within our family, within our church, within our organizations. I believe that even if offenders, and that's what I want to leave you off with tonight, this evening, is even offenders. When offenders are coming to you talking about their wife or their girlfriend or their boyfriend or their husband, and they're complaining and telling, man, I be on a bopper on the lip, I want to do all that kind of stuff, you need to go ahead and be that support team and say, bro, have you dealt with your anger issues? Have you ever hit your wife? Have you ever hit your girlfriend? Have you ever hit your mama? Have you ever hit your boyfriend? Have you ever hit your husband? We got to become a healthy support team to these people, because watch this. They're going to go back home to these places and where there's another human being it's going to be. And when they come out of our environment, if we're healthy, then we may initiate some healthy things, some healthy thinking, some healthy actions. So if we're around people and they're going through this type of stuff, my heart today is to plead to you to get the training, pray, fast, and know how to support. Don't support your brother and your sister in their wrongdoing. You love them, but you don't support the wrongdoing, what they're doing. If they're hurting someone, if they're physically hurting someone, manipulating, controlling someone, emotionally controlling someone, it's not right. And guess what? Healthy families create a healthy community. If we don't create a healthy family, we're not going to have a healthy community. If we don't create healthy families, we're not going to have healthy churches. We got to get to the place that we're willing to create healthy families. And how do we do that? It starts with us. It started with me. Before I can create a healthy family, what God did had allowed me and my husband to do. Teresa, Pastor Teresa, before she was a pastor, the oil was always there. But before the oil flowed, I had to get healed in some places. I had to admit some places that I was damaged and messed up in. I had to stop justifying and get the help that I need. Yes, I had reasons, but it can't be my continual reason to stay in that place. So I'm praying on today that I said something for you to think. I watch this. I believe in the power of God. I believe in all that. I pray with my alleged victims and abusers. I pray with them. I pray for with men and women that cause abuse on men and women and children. I pray for them. I don't have a judgment eye, because at one point I was on both sides. I've been a victim, and I have been alleged offender as well. Not with a man, but with my child. And I tell that story. I remember one time I took my daughter. I was young. I think I was 17 years old, maybe 19 years old. And I was so confused and frustrated that day. And my daughter came to me, mommy, 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 mommy. And I never forget this. And I want to share this with you, because every person, I'm not saying every offender don't got a story or have a story, and I don't want you saying, oh, I don't feel sorry for people, they need to go to jail. That I do. I believe there's some people, they need to go to jail. I do. But at the same time, are we going to be able to minister to an offender as well as the victim? Now, the victim is first and foremost. The children and the wife or the husband who've been abused are first and foremost. However, I believe that we still have to leave a door to help the alleged offender. Father God, we thank you. We thank you for allowing the Heal Me Now conference to be an atmosphere where people can get healing. they can get tools how to create atmosphere of healing. I pray right now that persons on the sound of my voice, in the name of Jesus, God, that you give them wisdom, you give them the knowledge, you give them the experience, you give them the tools that they need to be a healthy support team. And if anybody that's up on the sound of my voice that's dealing with domestic violence or even the acts of it, God, I pray right now that your healing power heal them from the inside out, God. I pray that those things that's lying dormant, I pray right now you pluck them up, God. You destroy them, you dismantle the stronghold that's over the young man and young woman's life. We thank you right now for what you're going to do. We thank you right now for the Heal Me Now conference.